So Michael, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, we are thrilled to have you.
Love that hat, by the way. Love the hat.
Good
Yeah.
hat.
Almost as good as the buck on the wall behind you there.
Yeah. This is the hat that I wear every day, not just for your podcast. So
Nice.
It's an everyday one. Love that.
Yeah.
I do like the juxtaposition of the Red Barn hat right next to the buck on the wall. There's something nice about that.
there you go.
Taking down wildlife, taking down real estate.
That's
right.
right.
Yes, sir. I like it.
Hilarious. So Michael, you are only 2 months into your real estate investing career, and you're having a lot of success. And I thought it'd be really cool to bring you on and just talk about kind of where you're at, how you feel 2 months in, because a lot of folks, they're a couple months in and they're on shaky ground. They're not sure how to feel, but I would love to just take your temperature and just kind of walk us through how it feels to only be 2 months into your initial real estate investing career.
Okay, so little background to kind of put the color on that is that I started real estate about 8 years ago, but it was a hobby. It was on the side of my full-time career, So it was slow going, but like I said, it was a hobby. It was something to try and build some passive income, and so what I'm 2 months into is my restart of my real estate career, because I took a couple of years off. And then back in November last year, so about 4 months ago, I signed on with Red Barn. And so we started marketing in January. And a lot of the skills that I learned, starting 8 years ago have helped me, I think, hit the ground running. And as I was telling Ken earlier, I'm really having fun with it. It's really something that I'm truly, for the most part, enjoying. So that's a rare thing for me to be able to say that I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing. So
in 60 days in, you're having great success. Like you're off to the races.
Yeah, we are. We've got several properties under contract and a couple good leads in the pipeline. So yeah, we are. It's been successful in my mind in terms of deal flow and things like that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, so again, for context, you've been in the corporate world, W-2, all the way up until now. This is your first time kind of stepping out into the world of like full-time entrepreneurship. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. I quit the corporate world 2 years ago and just kind of took some time off. And then I started this, a few months ago after some good soul searching and trying to find the right fit. So, yeah.
And what line of work were you in?
I call myself a recovering engineer. I was a mechanical engineer by degree, but primarily in leadership and continuous improvement. So just trying to find efficiencies in the company and things like that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Which it's always interesting the backgrounds that people come from when they find their way into full-time real estate or with Red Barn. And so you never know, there's so many facets to the real estate investing. It's the whole human personal interaction component, but then it's the analytical component of should I buy this, should I not buy it, and how much money should I put in? There's so many different elements that you have to bring to the table. Do you feel like maybe that engineering background has helped you stepping into this world?
In a sense, I have. I do, but I think more than anything, any engineer and any leader in the corporate world is doing the same thing that we're doing in real estate world, to me, and that is solving problems, right? So there's problems coming at us every day in the corporate world from a business standpoint or a personnel standpoint, and the bigger problems that you solve, the more you get paid, and the higher you go up in the company, and that type of thing. To me, what we're dealing with in real estate is problem solving, right? There's people out there who are looking to sell a house. There's people out there looking to buy a house. And so a lot of those come with, as my attorney says, they come with hair on them, right? They've got some kind of pain attached to them. And if you can solve those problems, you'll be successful. That's how I look at it. So I think that's the best skill that I was equipped to go into real estate with.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it really is absolutely about talking to a motivated seller, but their pain point is typically a problem. And it's a problem that really, if you can come and present a solution that makes sense, that's a win-win, That's the angle that I feel like investors have the most success with, is let me solve this problem for you. And it sounds like it's a great angle. So maybe talk to us for just a second about maybe a couple of the first deals that you've put under contract in these first 2 months and sort of what those have looked like and how that approach has worked for you.
Yeah. You know, it's pretty easy to tell usually on the phone within the first few minutes if somebody is truly a good fit for us, right? And because those pain points come out quickly. So one example of the one deal that we've actually closed so far was a lady who had a house, and man, it was just in really rough shape. And she was personally trying to put the money into it to get it fixed up. And I think she just really had, she was in over her head. She'd owned it for a long time. It had been trashed and whatnot. And I went in there and looked at the work that was being done. And I mean, I didn't know how to tell her, but I was like, this is some pretty terrible craftsmanship that you're paying good money for. And I knew immediately that I didn't want the house. And I, because of my history in real estate investing, I was a little bit trepidatious about wholesaling still. And this was the first deal where I felt like this is absolutely a wholesale because I don't want this house. And I told her straight up, I do not want this house, but I have a network of investors who may want it. Right. And so, yeah, seeing her pain point being in over her head, that was the pain. That was the problem to solve. Right. So being able to say, like, we could try this wholesale and we could potentially get you paid in 20 days. And wouldn't you rather have all this money instead of this headache of, a year more worth of work and that type of thing. The other one, Ken, that comes to mind is that I had we have one under contract right now, and the way the lead came into the system, I saw the lead come in and it said, best callback time, ASAP. I'm going through divorce and foreclosure.
Money.
Okay. So guess when I called them, right?
Yeah.
ASAP.
Right.
And we made an appointment that same day for 4 p.m. and we had it under contract, at 5 p.m., that type of thing. So just highly motivated. And the best thing that I can offer to them is to help them avoid foreclosure. Right. So when it came down to it, what that seller wanted was a payoff of their mortgage so they could avoid the foreclosure. They don't need a bunch of money. They just want to get out of the problem that they're in.
Yeah.
So those are the two examples that come to mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. 60 days in and you're already knocking down a couple solid. And you have a couple that you feel like are warm as well?
Yeah, we've actually got one more under contract, which we will buy tomorrow, actually. And that's going to be a flip. The story on that one is that it's the house has been vacant for 10 years. The owners they should have sold it a long time ago, but instead they let family move in. I've bought a number of houses from people who let family move in. I'm sure you guys have done a lot more.
Yeah, totally.
Often that doesn't end well. And so this house was, real beat up, hasn't been lived in for 10 years. So structurally it's good, but we're going to go in and flip it. We should do pretty well on that. So, and then, there's a couple others in the pipeline that I believe could turn into something with some time and nurture and that type of thing. So
what kind of price points are you finding in Tulsa? Where kind of are you operating at? What's that price point level?
Yes, you guys are probably going to laugh at this being in your market, but the properties that I've dealt with on these 3 deals, this one we're closing tomorrow, we're paying $35,000 for.
Wow.
It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 2-car garage.
Yeah. And
it's kind of in a town that's a little bit removed from Tulsa, so a little bit smaller of a town. But the one that we wholesaled, that was a $32,000 purchase price.
Wow.
And then this other one, this foreclosure one, it's in the 90,000 range, and it probably retails for 180.
Okay.
But most of my rental stuff, I mean, it's 250,000 and less, all the way down to, I would say, $50,000 kind of market price. So,
I mean, that price point, clearly lends itself to rentals. Is that part of your sort of long-term strategy, is to build a rental portfolio?
yeah, we've got about a dozen rentals, and I would like to flip and wholesale, but also, as it makes sense, keep 2 rentals a year. I think that would be, I like to think 10 years down the road to have 20 rentals. My family would probably be well taken care of at that point, in the long term.
Yep.
So
yep.
I always tell everybody, rentals are not going to make you rich quick.
No, they're not.
They're going to make you frustrated quick potentially, but they won't make you rich. But long term, man, it's been a huge blessing for us. So
yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, the way I look at rentals is, don't ever plan on cash flow. Just reinvest, keep it in a rainy day fund, and then watch the sucker appreciate over time. And like you said, 10, 20 years down the road, you've paid down the mortgage considerably, it's appreciated considerably, and all of a sudden you're sitting on a stack of equity. But it's very much a long range view, I feel like.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
So tell us, maybe, again, you're 2 months in, you're still kind of trying to figure your groove out to some extent, obviously having some success. What's a typical day look like for you?
Typical day, I usually try to be on. One thing I've been maybe unprepared for with taking some time off between corporate world and this is how much time I spend on the phone. A lot of that is just trying to get people to pick up the phone, because like me, they don't answer an unknown phone number. So it can be a little bit hard to get a hold of people, but I'm probably spending an average of 1.5 to 2.5 hours a day kind of in my lead system and on the phones. And then I'm probably spending another hour of the day working on deals under contract with our attorney and trying to clear obstacles, communicate with sellers, that type of thing.
Yep.
The wholesale, that took, a chunk of time because that was new territory for me. So trying to really establish, the methods to communicate to my team. I got booted out of, I got blacklisted from MailChimp, my first day ever to use it. But
first day out.
Yeah, I mean, so some of those things take the wind out of your sails. But like I said earlier, being a problem solver, I talked to Tracy with Red Barn, and he helped me kind of work around that and basically open up a new MailChimp account and do better the next time. So a little bit of time on that, a little bit of time in the local Facebook groups of the real estate investors, just to make sure that I'm aware of kind of what's out there and really who's out there. And I would say that's it. I mean, I probably am putting in 5 hours a day, and the rest is, family time, basically.
Nice.
If there's appointments, obviously I'll go on those as needed, and those can often take a couple of hours with drive time. So I like to keep some time available for that.
Yeah. And tell us, listeners, about your family. We were talking about it right before we hopped on. I mean, when you talk about spending time with family, you got some family to spend time with.
Yeah, we've got, I've got my wife and 5 kids. Our kids are 14 all the way down to 4. And my goal is to say yes as much as I possibly can. So, when they want to wrestle, I want to be able to say yes. When they want to go to the zoo, which we're doing right after this call, nice. I want to be able to say yes, So they are absolutely my priority, and it's no success is really worth it if you have to sacrifice your family. That's one of the biggest reasons I kind of chose to go down this path as opposed to some other options, is because of the balance. Like, this isn't an emergency business. If I don't want to go take a lead that doesn't seem like a really hot lead, I may be giving up on something, but it's a decision that I'm allowed to make in my own accord, So yeah, family is just critically important to me.
In this business, you don't have a partner. You don't have, I mean, you're taking the lead on this. You're running this business pretty much out of your home by yourself.
Yeah, I'm running it by myself, for now. Yeah. I mean, I would love to have somebody do some of these phone calls, even though it's not a huge time chunk. It doesn't energize me. Um, but the leads are good. So the phone calls, that's not the end of the world either. What I would love in the future is to be busy enough to be able to justify more of a general contractor on my team. Because I've potentially got some trust issues with general contractors who aren't on my team. So
yeah. Well, at the rate you're going, as you start picking up a couple of flips, especially if they're larger projects, we'll see if you can keep that 5 hours a day. It's gonna,
oh yeah,
unless you step up, like you said. I think that's not a bad idea. Get to a point where you bring somebody on that's managing those projects for you. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yep.
So, so talk to us for just a second about your buyers list, because again, you're 2 months in, and it does take a little, it takes a buyers list is one of those things that you're always working on. Like, as long as you're in this business, you should always be networking and adding new buyers into your network. So 2 months in, obviously, you've sort of got a young list. How have you been able to solve that? Because your very first deal, a month in, you did a wholesale deal. What had you sort of prepared for and planned ahead to be able to sell that to a buyer?
Yeah, great question. And that's definitely been a struggle for me because I wasn't really planning on primarily doing wholesaling. Is that I didn't have a great buyers list. I had purchased I had worked with two different gig people on Fiverr, to get buyers lists. Those came out with, I would say, pretty low quality, especially one of them. We ended up canceling the gig and not even paying for it. But I did get a couple hundred out of that, a couple hundred buyers, or alleged buyers, I should say. So those were all skip traced and everything. So I came out with a list of about 500 people, and about 300, kind of 300 of those people had email addresses. So I put those into my system. I also had an old buyers list from my previous business that was it was very small, maybe 50 people. But 50 people that I knew were real buyers. Like, I met them at the sheriff's auction and that type of thing.
Nice.
But ultimately, what has helped me really build my buyers list is getting my deals out onto the Facebook group, as well as the Facebook groups, as well as going back into the history of those Facebook groups and looking for deals and Facebook messaging those people with my MailChimp link that says, hey, if you want to be on my buyers list, here's a link to get on it. And my buyer for the wholesale came from Facebook. Nice. So yeah, I met him, and definitely somebody I could do business with again in the future. Great person. So
awesome. Yeah, and it only takes a couple. And that's what a lot of people think they need, this massive 10,000 person list. Not really. A lot of your best wholesalers have 5 go-to buyers. Just, big time flippers or buyers that have a big appetite. That's all you need is a handful of good ones.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're networking in a Facebook group. What other networking opportunities have you found in Tulsa? Because I think that's a great way to build your network.
Back to family being the priority, I really struggle with the real estate groups because they always want to meet during dinner time. And that's just, if there were a lunch group, I would be, and maybe I need to start one.
Yeah.
Some of the best networking I've done, Ken, is really just with my contractors themselves, right? Because contractors will connect you to other contractors. And the more people that you get connected to that way, one, you can find great contractors, which you have to have in this business. But two, as you tell people that you're buying properties, they start to, that it kind of creates a chatter. And so as they hear of something, they think of, I want them to think of me and bring it to me. So that, I've got one of my contractors who wants me to help him get into the business by seller financing him a house that he could then flip or rent. And I love that idea. Like, I would love to help somebody else be successful. And so those types of relationships I've found a lot more value in than, quote, the real estate investors clubs, just because I'm not as available for those, unfortunately. But
yeah, I think it's funny. I went, when I first got into business, this is back in 2005. I think I went to 1 or 2 of those RIAs, And I don't know if I ever went back. Maybe I went back once or twice, because same thing. It's like the other side of town. It was at night. It was such a kind of a pain. But even since then, I feel like lots of smaller RIAs have popped up. Like nowadays, it's a very common thing to start your own meetup group, or to have one that's local to you. And like you said, if it's your group, you can set the time whenever you want. But it's a great opportunity to trade deals. And I think you'll definitely find yourself in this when you start networking and finding other wholesalers and other investors. You start trading deals. It becomes really common. Like, hey, I got this deal, you got this deal. Let's swap, or you buy this from me, I'll buy this from you. And it honestly can become a great, not just a buyer's list, but honestly a place to acquire properties as well.
Yeah, that's great. Good point. Yep.
So again, I know our time's winding down, but I want to just maybe take a 30,000 foot view. How does it feel to, for you to jump ship, left the W-2, launched into entrepreneurship? You're 2 months in, big picture. How do you feel about things?
I feel very optimistic. I'm like I said, it's the first time that I can say I really enjoy the work that I'm doing. And part of that enjoyment is being able to work for myself and really chart my own path forward. I can work this as hard as I want to. And I can get as busy as I want to. And, I tend to put some pressure on myself in terms of like, okay, we've got this house, we're buying this house tomorrow. I need to be there Friday to start getting utilities and contractors. I'm like, you know what? It's $35,000 that's going to be sitting out there. It's not the end of the world if that flip takes me 6 months, for the sake of my sanity, right?
Yeah,
it's an hour drive away. So that felt like a lot of pressure, it being that far away. But I'm really, like I said, I can take it at my own pace, and I can keep working other deals and leads in the meantime. So super optimistic, and also excited that it's an opportunity where my family could be involved. I would love for my kids to get the feeling of a good hard day's work cleaning out a nasty house. Like, I think people need to experience that.
Yeah.
And sometimes our kids have it a little bit too easy. So I would love for some of those things to kind of come to fruition as well. So
love it. It's funny. I'm the same way. We try to bring our kids on job sites when we can. If this is last Friday, we'd acquired a house that where they had literally left everything in the house. I think somebody passed away, unfortunately, but it was like it was a time capsule from 1960. Nothing was new and nothing had been moved. And so we took the kids and we're like, all right, you got 2 minutes. We're gonna let you into the house, and whoever can find the coolest object. It was a full-blown treasure hunt. And like, sure enough, we timed them, we record, and they love that sort of thing, like just pouring through a house, or demo day. We've taken on demo days, where you go in there with a sledgehammer and you knock some walls down. And same thing. I think it's great to have an opportunity to expose your kids to the business that you're in. And maybe they fall in love with it, maybe they don't, but at least they see their parents or their dad hard at work and teaching them work ethic and entrepreneurship and all those great qualities.
Well, one of the reasons I actually started 8 years ago in this is because I met this multimillionaire, and I had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. And he said, he was telling me this story about how he bought his, I think, son a house when he turned 16. And it was a rent house. He let his son pick it. He gave him 3 options and said, pick one of these 3. And his son learned to run this little business of a rent house, because every rent house is a business, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Income, expenses, and people, and decisions and that type of thing. I love that idea. That's actually why I started. So I think getting into a position now, we're not in Atlanta, so buying the kids a house with a on a loan or something like that, or a cash house for $35,000, and letting them run a business. I love that as an opportunity for them to really get some street smarts in this world, as opposed to just academics or any of that category. So
yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, I've interviewed other folks who similar idea, where they bought the house, and then it was for the kid, like future, like for all, this is your house down the road. But same thing, include them in the P&Ls and understanding how it all works, and like, this is going to be yours, and it also pay for college. Who knows what it could do down the road.
Absolutely,
especially as it appreciates. I love it. I think it's awesome.
You mentioned quick question. You mentioned the multimillionaire, his advice to you. Have you had any mentors that have been sort of along this journey with you for real estate, that either in the past or now that you lean on for wisdom or advice, or people that you look to as you chart this new direction?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, indirectly, certainly you guys. I got my original education from podcasts and books. Red Barn, I work with Dave at Red Barn, who's just fantastic. So that's a weekly phone call that we have. And then I've got some connections. Like I've got a guy that I call my mentor. He always, pushes back on that. But he's a great flipper here in the Tulsa market, and we've worked with him on some lending and things like that. So any flipping questions I have, he's happy to answer those things, including going and checking out some of my properties and things like that. So I've always got my ears, kind of open for mentor opportunities. But those are kind of the ones that I've got cooking right now, and it's a game changer. Getting somebody else's opinion on some of these things, it's really, really important. So
yeah, almost necessary. I feel like in this business to have when you're breaking into the business, to have somebody you can bounce questions off of and whatnot.
Yep.
Any advice? So somebody else is listening to this, they're stuck in their W-2 9-to-5 job, and they're like, man, I wish I was flipping houses. What advice would you give somebody that's considering this sort of opportunity?
I would say do it. My advice would be quit reading, quit learning, and go take action, because there's just nothing like action for education. Now, I don't know if I could say that in an Atlanta market or something, but if I could find an ancillary market where there's some affordable stuff to go get my feet wet on, get a mentor, and get started. Like, it's not all about making money. So even if you lose money on your first flip, the education will be worth whatever you lost, within reason. So
yeah, I definitely lost money on a couple early on, but it didn't look back, man. Took it, like you said, chalked it up to education, and was well on my way after that. And part of it, sometimes you just got to get in the game.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not going to learn basketball by reading a book. Like, you got to get in on the court and play before you really understand what basketball is about. Same thing with real estate investing. You just got to get in the game.
Yep, absolutely.
So, well, Michael, this has been really cool to get a perspective of somebody that's really only 2 months into their business, having success, obviously striking a really good balance between work and family. I mean, I feel like the opportunity for you that lies ahead is going to be tremendous. I can't wait to see what you do with it, and we're thrilled that we get to be part of it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. It's been a great adventure so far. So
awesome. Absolutely.
And looking forward to years together doing this, and have fun.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Thanks.
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
Take care, Michael.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Man.